What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Triple Play Fantasy Football Show, a proud member of the Fantasy Points Group and Fantasy Points Media. No David here this week. David's taking a hiatus, so we got Eric Doc hosting. I got my normal crew. I got Johnny Football with me. John, we picked a good week for David to not be on here, so that way we don't have to talk about that AFC West game.
We don't have to talk about anything. And I was actually going to say I'm not even watching next week. It's just been too sad for me to watch some crap teams after they get me excited for the third year in a row. So I'm taking next week off from watching the Raiders.
Okay. All right. Well, on a happier note, how's the planning for Nicole's birthday party going?
It's going, dude. It's going to be a murder mystery party. Has there been a murder? Yeah, I'm going to host it. It's going to be hot stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm starting to get prepared for that. We also got the other member of Triple Play, the triple threat of Triple Play. He does football, he does basketball, he does the movie minutes. That's Brad Stradamus himself. What's going on?
I like that, man. I'm about to change my name to the triple threat of fantasy instead of Brad Stradamus.
TM, trademark it.
There you go. I'll give you a cut.
All right. I love it. I love it. And then we got a special guest this week, and we welcome in a man who is truly one of a kind. The co-founder of Front Yard Fantasy, co-host of the Fantasy Football Game Show. You can find him anywhere. Taking a bath, under the sink scaring his girlfriend, or at Clemson games eating pizza out of a bush. The only guy I know on Twitter who has chest hair showing in his Twitter picture. The only guy with a tattoo of a calf on his calf. We welcome in Simon Grunewald, and I said his last name right because I asked how to pronunciate it 2 minutes prior. What's going on, Simon?
Yo, that was the best intro I've ever gotten. I'm going to clip that and use it when people ask me, describe yourself in 3 words. I'm like, I'm not playing this game. Just listen to Eric. He's got it down right there. Now, this is exciting being on here because when JL and I were first starting, I remember we talked with you, JL. The very first guest appearance he did was on your show. And this is my first time coming on over here. I'm really excited getting on here with you guys.
Yeah, and we got a great show. Simon, us being in the fantasy community and, JL and I have known each other since middle school. But tell us some of the things that Front Yard Fantasy has coming up, what you guys have been working on, because you guys are killing it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So the main thing we do Monday through Friday, every day at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We've been doing it for over a year now. We go live with the Fantasy Football Game Show. So you can always find us at 3 p.m. on our YouTube channel and Twitch channels, Front Yard Fantasy. On top of that, we've got office hours 2 times a week, 4:15 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, immediately following the game show. So you can play some games, stick around to get your fantasy questions answered. Then we recently started doing some work with FanDuel as well. So that's been exciting. On Friday evenings, we've got a show on the FanDuel YouTube and Twitch channels playing some more games. So if you like the Fantasy Football Game Show, you'll love coming over there and playing some more games with us. And then on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern time, we are live on the FanDuel YouTube and Twitch doing the Sunday night recap. So we recap that day's fantasy games, go through them game by game, talk about players, big busts, big breakouts, just kind of hang out and talk about the games that we all watch that day.
You guys have very understanding girlfriends. It's a very packed schedule, but I guess it offsets having a full-time job. But that's great stuff, and definitely tune in and make sure if you haven't caught some of Front Yard stuff. We got a good show today, fellas. We're going to do a Week 10 recap. Got some news and notes coming on. Of course, our short story. Got a new segment, Keep or Dump. Stuff or Fluff, Obscure Tight End, Touchdown of the Week, and the Question and Game of the Week, which are a surprise, except for the Game of the Week because John's hosting it. Fellas, are you ready to get another episode started?
Let's do it.
Okay, well, I'm going to play the intro then. I'm not going to steal David's line. Here you go. All right. Gosh, that's sexy. We're going to start out with a little bit of news and notes. And Brad, I want to start off with you on this one because this is your guy. Cam Newton signed with the Panthers. He went 3 of 4 with 8 yards, a passing touchdown, 3 carries, 14 yards, a rushing touchdown, and a "I'm back" to the crowd. He's taken first team reps this week, looks in line to start Sunday. What are your expectations for him rest of the season?
Honestly, I'm glad to see him back. I'm glad he had that great first showing. I was listening to Bomani Jones on ESPN say something about, it's not so much about what he does the entire time. It's just that everybody wanted him to have that moment, just that moment of like something to give the fans to remember of him coming back, as opposed to just how it all ended. So I'm happy for that, as opposed to what I expect from him the rest of the year. Pretty much what I expected from him in New England. And that's, he's going to score on the ground. He's going to get those rushing touchdown vultures. I'm not expecting much through the air. I'm expecting them to move the ball. But, I think this is always going to be a team that's run through Christian McCaffrey. And I think that's what you can expect. I don't know that I'd give any of the receivers an upgrade or a downgrade from what Darnold or PJ Walker was going to do. I think it's about just what the versatility that Cam brings to the offense because he can run the ball. So I think it's still about CMC in Carolina.
So I forgot our QB rankings last year, but I think he had Cam as QB 10, right?
I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up. Yep.
Is he a top 12 quarterback rest of the season with that rushing upside?
No.
Okay.
Oh, you should have stuck with your guns, Brad.
Yeah, I was expecting to have a little bit of banter. I mean, Simon, John, anything else? I mean, do you guys have him inside the top 12?
We're going to talk about him at the pump or dump or the keep or dump segment, but I mean, I just hate how now I have to think: do I actually keep Robbie Anderson?
Yeah, that's why I put it in there. A little bit of foreshadowing from John, but Simon, you said you have him in your top 12.
Yeah, right at the back end. I think he's a back end QB1, high end QB2 rest of season. We've seen it with Jalen Hurts so far. I know this last game he came out and he showed up. He's a different kind of back than Cam. I'm not going to act like it's the same. But that rushing floor, and specifically with Cam, those rushing touchdowns give him that upside and that safe floor that some of these other QBs don't have. If you're asking me, like, who's number 12 right now? Cam Newton, Carson Wentz, rest of season. That's a close one, but that's about the range I put Cam Newton in, right? I think he deserves to belong in that conversation. I'd rather have Carson Wentz as my team's quarterback, but on a fantasy basis, you don't care where those points come from, and Cam's going to get him on the ground.
To Simon's point, like if that back end of the top 12 is Carson Wentz, like I do think Cam's better than Carson Wentz, but I just don't know that the passing upside is going to be there, and I worry that CMC is too valuable to that team, for Cam to really sneak into that.
We have our friend area. Zach checking in saying, Simon, hope that chair is going strong tonight. Yeah, I don't want you to fall at all. But yeah, I think it's interesting too from the perspective that like this is Cam's job rest of the season. They're acting like Darnold's going to be out. PJ Walker has kind of had his
paid
chance.
Him, man. They really paid him.
They did pay him, and it's funny that they paid replacements when they ended up just bringing Cam back. But
they're going to give him like I think it's with incentives, but up to $10 million. Like that's real money. They want him to start like
they
onward.
They do. Our next little bit of news and notes, Aaron Jones has a minor MCL sprain. I love how they say like minor MCL sprain, like it's like a boo-boo. But he's going to miss at least the next 1 or 2 weeks. So Simon, I want to ask you this. A.J. Dillon's an RB1 going forward, but where do you rank him? And then are you spending any of your fab on Kylan Hill?
A.J. Dillon's a top 10 back until Aaron Jones gets back. And even when he is back, he's a flex-worthy option. A.J. Dillon was a guy you could plug into your lineup even with Aaron Jones in there. And I fully expect him to just continue doing what he did this past weekend. Kylan Hill, I'm not spending any of my fab on Kylan Hill. That's a 2-week rental for the backup's backup in Green Bay. No, thank you.
He was getting a little bit of work this year.
I don't know. Eric's thought process, it was Benjamin, you just keep getting backups until everybody gets injured, and then you have a starter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like, and kind of transitioning to the next little bit of news, Robert Woods tearing his ACL, like, Robert Woods, Derrick Henry, and Russell Wilson have arguably been the most durable at their position, and they've all suffered major injuries this year. Like, I can't think of anyone that is more durable at that given position. Zach checking in saying Kylan Hill's on IR with an ACL tear. Wow.
So
injuries are really stacking up. Good thing waivers go tomorrow.
You get a bid now.
I'm doubling down on my
doubling down. So next little bit of news and notes, and it's kind of a two-parter. The Rams signed Odell Beckham on Thursday, and then Robert Woods tore his ACL on Friday. And it wasn't thought to be initially serious. He finished practice, did a media session, then they undergo testing, and obviously out for season. Odell Beckham in his debut, 2 catches on 18 yards for limited snaps. So, John, what are your expectations for Odell Beckham the rest of the year in the Rams offense?
So it's really weird timing, and it really does make me think about sort of the butterfly effect. Not that OBJ caused the injury, but who knows, if he takes one step different because he doesn't sign him and Robert Woods doesn't tear his ACL. But I think he slides right into pretty much where Robert Woods was. So I expect him to be Robert Woods moving forward. They have a little different skill set, but the targets are now gone. Oh, and no, now they're back. Now they're back to OBJ.
Whoa. OBJ doesn't run jet sweeps like Robert Woods does.
Yes, he does. Except he throws it, so he adds another wrinkle.
He does.
Because he can throw a touchdown.
He doesn't want the contact on that. It's interesting. I think everybody thought Van Jefferson was going to step into that wide receiver 2 role, and he looked awful yesterday. He didn't look confident in his route running. He dropped a couple passes that, albeit were a little bit difficult, but an NFL receiver should make. So I don't think that's a bad call saying that Odell Beckham is going to slide into the number 2 wide receiver spot.
Maybe run a jet sweeper too.
Last little bit of news and notes, just some somber news, and I'm looking at you, Brad, as a Washington football team fan. Chase Young, torn ACL, out for season. Hopefully he's going to be back by week 1. Just one of the.
Take your time.
Take your time. Take all of next year, right? ACL is a 2-year injury, right?
Please, I honestly, I don't even.
Not anymore.
I hate that
people seem to be coming back in 2 weeks from ACL.
Exactly.
Injuries.
I hate
crazy.
that. Everybody's getting so competitive with these ACL recoveries that it's what was like a career ender has turned into a year, has turned into 9 months, has turned into 6 months.
Everybody's trying to beat Adrian Peterson's timeline. Oh, he can come back from an ACL tear and run for 2,000 yards, but that's not
take all the time you need, Chase.
No, I'm with you on that. And prayers up for all these players. It seems like this week was just talking about injuries. We're going to go to our next segment, and it's our Week 10 short story. Now, I'm getting better with the sound effects, right? All right. So this is your 60-second story. Something you want to come clean on, a victory lap, anything on your mind. Simon, the floor is yours.
Man, this one is a formal apology to my girlfriend and her fantasy team. She asked me who to start this weekend, Rhamondre Stevenson or Brandon Bolden. As a confident Browns fan, I thought this was going to be a pass-heavy game script for the Patriots, and we all know that did not pan out. So I apologize for having you start Brandon Bolden over Rhamondre Stevenson this week, Leanne. That was an absolute mistake on my part.
She shouldn't have listened to you once you said you were a Browns fan.
I know, right? Bad judgment from the get-go.
All right, John, what's your short story?
So I touched on it at the beginning, but it's the 3rd season in a row where the Raiders have started hot, beaten some good teams, and then completely fallen apart. So I'm taking the week off. I'm not watching the game, and I may not watch the Thanksgiving game against the Cowboys just for my own sanity, because it's the 3rd year in a row. They did it differently this year too. They had to add a terrible, tragic wrinkle to it on why they collapsed. But here we are again.
John, would you rather them be 5-2 and then have this collapse, or when the middle school days when they were 0-16?
I think it's almost worse this way because I get my hopes up. I legitimately thought we had a shot at the Chiefs last night, or 2 nights ago. And
I still think you do. I still do.
I know, and that's why it's so annoying, because I think we do have a shot, but apparently we never will.
One of the most frustrating teams to follow. Brad, what's your short story?
I have a very depleted wide receiving core in my dynasty league, and I've been starting Jamal Agnew for the past 5
my
weeks.
Gosh.
And he finally paid off for me with that 66-yard touchdown on the ground. He's the ultimate gadget player. I wish he would change his number, but he won't. So I just want to give a shout out to Jamal Agnew.
You've been watching some Cordero Patterson highlights, that's for sure.
Yeah, man.
So for me, mine is short. I mean, who knows what to expect in the NFL? The Bills lose at Jaguars and then demolish the Jets. The Cowboys lose at home to the Broncos. It's expected to be a close game with the Falcons, and then they destroy them. Matt Ryan, shout out for the 0.6 fantasy points, by the way. My team name is named after you now. It just seems like there's no consistency. No team is the team to beat. Bucks lose at Washington. Rams lose 2 in a row. Cardinals look good against the 49ers, then get blown out at home against the Panthers. It's just they say each week is a given game, and I can't think of a better expression. It's just been so hard to predict. Shout out to anyone that's in their survivor pool. But we got the host coming in, David, saying, "My boys."
What's
Hi,
up,
David?
David?
Hey, Dave, we're having fun without you. Okay, get out of here.
I was about to say block him.
Yeah. But we're going to go to our next segment, and it's going to be a new one that I made, and it's going to be keep or dump. And I need to find the sound effect I have real quick. I'm getting to it, getting better at this. So just give me a second. I felt like that was pretty good. David just said,
I don't even hear it.
I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, we don't hear it.
Oh, okay, never mind. I'm gonna start.
Just
I'm gonna
ignore
stop
it.
doing
I was
that.
gonna say this is David all over again.
Okay, all right. David said he just cut 15 guys from his roster, broke some hearts. All right, Dave, we don't care about that. But I'm gonna give you guys a list of players, and you're gonna tell me whether you're keeping them rest of the season or you're putting them like toilet paper and flushing them down the toilet. So, Brad, I'm gonna start with you. Actually, no, John, I'm gonna start with you because you alluded to it. Robbie Anderson. Somebody that we have been talking about cutting all year. He goes 4 for 37 and a touchdown on 6 targets with PJ Walker and Cam Newton under center. There's a gif of him going around where he's smiling. What do you make of it?
Oh, man. I don't know what to make of it. I ironically have him on a team where I also have DJ Moore that just sort of happened out of happenstance. It certainly wasn't planned to have 2 Panthers wide receivers going into the season. But I think I got to keep him. I think I got to keep him for at least another week or two to see how he reacts with Cam. Because if he turns into just Cam's favorite target running slants across the middle, then you'd feel real bad about dropping him after holding on to him for 10 weeks. And I know that I sunk cost and all that, yada, yada, yada. But what's 2 more weeks when you had him?
John, bringing in economics with sunk cost. I love it. Is that a new segment in economics pod? I'm about it.
I think it's the second pod in a row I've said it. So it can be a new recurring segment.
All right.
Just recurring sunk cost fallacy player of the week. Like who's somebody who you want to cut, but you just can't because you spend too much time.
Maybe bring in a little bit of GDP or inflation or monetary policy next time. Talk about the salary cap.
I'm hoping his numbers are inflated.
Oh, there we go. Brad, what are you doing with Robbie?
I'm with Johnny. I think, theoretically his average depth of target would lead to him not being a good fit with Cam, but he's got a touchdown pass already, and honestly, if you already have him on your team, I don't think anything's really changed for you to think that he's going to do more or less this year. So I think if he's still on your roster right now, you have no reason to cut him.
Okay. So we got 2 keeps.
It's not quite a sunk cost, but it's just like
it's depreciation value.
Sure.
All right. Simon, what are you doing with Robbie?
Time value of Robbie Anderson.
Yeah.
Robbie
There we
Anderson
go.
in the future.
The present value of Robbie Anderson.
We'll have some formula to determine players' values moving forward. Simon, what about you? What are you doing with Robbie?
I mean, quick shout out to anybody who still has him on their roster with the amount of injuries and what he's been doing for fantasy. Like, good God, you guys held on. But you know what? I'm still dumping him. Like, what? This takes him from like a wide receiver 7 to a wide receiver 4 in best case scenario in my mind. Like, I can find similar value on the waiver wire week in, week out in my eyes. I have no interest in Robbie Anderson the rest of the season. I don't think Cam changes it too much over there. I get the upside that we've seen him succeed before in this offense, but from what I've seen so far this year, I don't think Cam changes the way he's being used too much.
It's the allure of like he's basically a mystery box again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
he could be anything.
So
Even Robbie Anderson.
I love that. So the thing why I was off on Robbie Anderson for the longest time, I was like, this guy is one public urination away from being in jail for 20 years. Like he just had so many off the field issues.
That's
why I was
too specific, and I don't want to.
No, it was just like he just needed like a minor misdemeanor. He literally.
What off field issues does he have? I missed this.
Oh, speeding, DWI, making contact with an officer. Like he should be doing time right now for the stuff he's gotten away with. It's just kind of athlete privilege. So that was the reason I was scared off of him for a while. But as a talent on the field, he's amazing, and he kind of falls in that Tyreek Hill category where he just needs one play to be fantasy relevant. Like week 1,
which he hasn't gotten.
57-yard touchdown week 1. That made his day right there. So a good little bit of banter on here. We're going to go to another wide receiver. It's Mr. Zach Pascal. And he started the season with 3 touchdowns in 2 games, none since. And after getting 9 catches for 101 yards on 15 targets last 2 games, looking like he had a little bit of upside. He goes for 2 for 9 on 2 targets. So, John, what are you doing with Mr. Pascal?
I think it's almost similar to what Brad was saying about Robbie Anderson. If you already have him, I don't know if there's technically a better option out there because he's going to be sitting on your bench anyway. If I wouldn't have the guts to start him, but at the same time, I don't know if there's somebody who you could swap him out with at this point who you really think will be better.
Okay. I mean, the Colts have been one of the more explosive offensive teams actually in the last month. They've, shown some high scoring games, and Pittman is definitely the wide receiver one, and it's kind of a pecking order after that. Simon, what about you? Are you keeping this wide receiver, or is he going in the toilet along with Robbie Anderson?
Yeah, he's going in the toilet. I'm not keeping him. I mean, T.Y. Hilton was back this game, and then all of a sudden we see Zach Pascal's targets drop off. I don't think that's a coincidence. You can't rely on him in any capacity for fantasy.
Okay. Brad, what about you?
I echo exactly what Simon said. He's got 2 things against him. One, he's inconsistent himself as a receiver, and then his quarterback is also inconsistent. So too much has to go right in a given week. And with T.Y. Hilton back, he doesn't have the same allure for me. I dump him absolutely.
I don't think there needs to be much more said. My kind of general rule of thumb is if you don't feel confident starting a guy, why have him on your bench? I wouldn't feel comfortable on a bye week because, yes, he can get the touchdowns, but he can also go 2 for 9, and he's not going to have those high yardage games. Maybe if T.Y., gets injured again, I know he had a neck issue. That's something we revisit. Rodney Santana chiming in. What are your thoughts on Barkley and Carson? So
I'm out on both of them.
I mean, Matt Barkley's not that good of a quarterback, I think.
Yeah, I think Carson is a dart throw. I don't like anyone that has a neck issue, especially as physical runner he is. I know Pete Carroll said that he wanted to come out and run the ball, but I think Alex Collins has done a serviceable job. And
is Carson even back?
They say he's supposed to resume practicing. They've been very murky about this.
It's gonna, even if he does come back, it's obviously gonna be under like a smaller workload,
But I think Saquon is the more interesting one. Obviously you spent a first or second round pick on him. Coming back from an ankle sprain. What are your guys' expectations, Simon?
He's a low end RB1, high end RB2 rest of the season. Adjust your expectations.
Oh, you're that optimistic.
I mean,
start him.
You're going to start him rest of the season if you have him. Just adjust your expectations based on where you drafted him. He's not going to be that top 3 guy week in, week out coming in from this injury with the way this offense has been working. But we've seen Devontae Booker get some production there. Saquon Barkley's twice the back Booker is. He's going to be fine for fantasy.
Let me ask you guys, if you are in a league where the trade deadline has not passed yet, are you looking to trade Saquon?
I wouldn't even have him. I'd like it, Eric. You and I.
If he was on your team, yeah, we had him as RB19, RB20. Everybody called us crazy. But if he was on your roster, would you trade him now, or do you think that he's going to have some? I know Simon's answer.
Yeah. I would have traded him after he had his first good game.
I'm with you on that.
I wouldn't. I feel like you get no value at this point because he's been out for so long. I wouldn't trade him.
I feel like the namesake maybe drives it a little bit.
If you could find someone who still values him as like a top 5 back, which there's going to be people out there, you could do it.
Yeah,
I'm not paying up for him. I know his value.
Hey, just find some Giants fans. They believe that Saquon can do no wrong and will never get hurt. And you got your boys back, and you're saying they agree with Simon. You're supposed to disagree. That's what
I was going to say. Now we are in trouble if we agree.
Hope everyone is having a good night. Simon, you sure you're not tweeting from this account?
You caught me.
Back to our stuff or fluff, and we're going to finish out with 2 running backs. The first, Jeremy Mcnichols, the popular waiver wire target from a couple weeks ago that David spent 80% of his fab on. Shout out, David. 4 carries for 7 yards, 1 catch for 1 yard on Sunday, splitting reps with Adrian Peterson and Deonta Foreman. So, Brad, what are you doing to Mr. Mcnichols in a PPR league? Because I don't think he has any value in standard. You keeping or you cutting?
I was a huge Mcnichols guy. Every time he gets the ball, he shows flashes that he should be a starter.
All 7 of those yards he was showing.
Yeah. For whatever reason, like maybe they see him in practice and they see something I don't see, but I think he's absolutely a drop candidate. I've already dropped him in one of my dynasty leagues. I just think that if you have the opportunity to start Mcnichols and you decide that you want to go get Adrian Peterson and Deonta Foreman, and then you give Adrian Peterson the goal line carries and Dante Foreman still outsnaps him. Like it's just a situation where it's clear that he's not desired in any sort of capacity that will help you in your fantasy season. So he's a clear drop for me.
Well, I guess he affected someone on Front Yard Fantasy. We don't have to talk about Mcnichols. He let him down hard. I think he let a lot of people down hard. Josh, you feeling similar to your co-host? I'm sorry, Simon.
Oh, I think my video cut out there for a second. I'm back now, though.
It's good. I confused you with your co-host Josh, and then your video cut out. But what do you think about Jeremy Mcnichols? Keep, cut?
I'm so sad. I was Josh convinced me. I was bought in that he was going to be the guy to roster there, and it's just been heartbreaking to watch. I'm right there with Brad. Not too much else to add. You can drop him at this point.
Brad, who was that Browns running back who you convinced me to get last year?
Ernest Johnson.
No. It was someone else, I thought.
I think
Ernest Johnson bamboozled a lot of people.
Is this going to be related to Jeremy Mcnichols, John?
Yeah, I was going to say, don't think about it too hard, but this is the same thing. Brad also got me excited about Jeremy Mcnichols, and he's certainly – this is two years in a row, Brad, for backup running backs. I no longer trust you.
I'm so sorry.
But I just think it's weird if the Titans really didn't like him and they thought Adrian Peterson, who was available all offseason, and Foreman, who was available all offseason, were better. Why did they wait until an injury to Derrick Henry? I know they didn't expect Henry to get hurt, but like if you have this disdain for your own player, why didn't you just replace him at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, that's true. And he's a 28, 29-year-old journeyman, so he's kind of been around.
It was Demetric Felton, Johnny.
Yes, that's exactly who it was.
It was.
That's a good grab. I mean, here's the thing about Mcnichols. I think if you can stash him on your bench, you do, just because an injury to Peterson and Foreman, I don't think they bring someone else in. And I think that they're kind of competing with the in-between the tackles running back. Having one catch for 1 yard, he's usually gotten about 4 to 5 targets each game. So if you can stash him, but if you need, with bye weeks coming up or injuries, I think he's one of the first cut candidates. The last one, Mr. J.D. McKissic. He had 6 touches in Sunday's game after getting 16, 8, and 11 the previous 3 games. Antonio Gibson had a career-high 24 carries in the win against Tampa Bay. Simon, what are you doing with J.D. rest of the year? You keeping him on the towel rack, or is he going in the toilet and then we're flushing the crew?
The only running back situation that's confused me more than this Gibson situation is the Eagles running back core, but I think we're all in agreement on that one. I know they gave all the work to Gibson here, and that was great, but I still am worried about that stress fracture in the shin. That doesn't just go away. The only way that heals is with rest. And I feel like any given week, it could act up, it could flare up, he could agitate it in practice. And then all of a sudden, J.D. McKissic has a very clear path to more touches. I'm keeping J.D. McKissic if at all possible. And then if they get a negative game scripts, like they weren't necessarily in this weekend, J.D. McKissic is the guy. They don't trust Antonio Gibson fully in that receiving role yet.
Okay. John, what are your thoughts?
I was going to echo exactly the same about just at some point, they're not going to be beating the Buccaneers in a football game. They're going to be losing. And that's when they do these little dump passes to J.D. McKissic.
All right. I mean, we got president of Jeremy Mcnichols fan club, Josh,
he is
coming in. I mean, the Ravens running back situation is pretty confusing. They cut Le'Veon Bell today. They haven't been playing Tyson Williams. It seems like still Latavius Murray and
Tyson Williams,
Devonta Freeman.
I think
you keep picking up these players until they're the starter. That's what happens. Somebody's going to get hurt.
I think they cut Lev Bell because Latavius Murray is coming back soon. If I had to guess.
So, Brad, as the Washington football team fan, I know you're the Jared Patterson truther, but what are your thoughts about the other running back? That's not Gibson. That's not Patterson. That's McKissic.
I've had McKissic on my roster all year, just simply because I was scared of the turf toe that Gibson had in the early part of the year this year. So if it's not one injury, it's another with Gibson, and on top of that, like they're lining McKissic up in the slot. They put him in on third down as a third down back. McKissic has too much value to me. Even if McKissic is if Gibson's healthy, that I wouldn't drop McKissic. So I like McKissic a lot.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I have him on a non-PPR team. He just gets a lot of volume. It's interesting that it's kind of fluctuated a little bit. I'd say in the 8 to 12 is where to expect him. 6 touches is pretty low, but for that, we've seen a bunch of running backs go down. I mean, I think the fact that Derrick Henry got hurt shows that no running back is safe. And it's the time of year now where you really have to get these handcuffs so that when the playoffs come around, you have viable starters or you have enough depth. So glad that we agreed on that one. I put it at the end, so hopefully we were all on board for it. But flushing it down the toilet of the ones we said, and we're going to our next segment of stuff.
The first
and
sound
fluff.
effect I've heard.
I got to do these manually now because you can't hear it on my computer. I'm going to get better, but it's stuff or fluff. Dun dun! Law and Order. So I'm going to read a statement right here. And Simon, the way that it goes, you have to say whether it's stuff, whether there's validity to it, or fluff, and it's just some garbage, some paparazzi, some TMZ, material. So we got a couple here. The first, John, I'm going to start with you. The Chiefs should be the favorite out of the AFC. Stuff or fluff?
Thank God David's not on for this one. For the record, Mahomes threw about 4 interceptable passes, 2 of which went off players' hands. So just saying, I guess his luck is back. But yeah, of course they are. Everybody in the AFC West was thinking the same thing too. Raiders fans, Chargers fans, Broncos fans all thought they were still the favorite. I'm not comfortable until they're dead and buried.
I've heard some people say the Bills. Some people have said that the Patriots get hot at the right time. The Titans are the number 1 overall seed right now. So I don't think it's a gimme as years pass. But stuff from a Raiders fan is a big thing to admit. Brad, what about you? Stuff or fluff?
I've been trying to say that the Chiefs are going to be fine all year. I've been trying to calm David down about it.
Let us enjoy when they're bad. Brad.
I'm sorry, I can't. Like even when what's his name? Even when Mahomes isn't playing well, and like he's always going to throw interceptable passes. He's Brett Favre. He's a gunslinger. Like he's just going to do that. That's a part of his identity. He's going to have bad games. He's going to have good games. All in all, if their defense is even average, they're going to be probably the best team in the league. So I think they're the favorite to me.
All right, Simon, what about you? Are we going to get some disagreement here?
I mean, I'm mostly in line with these guys, but you mentioned a bunch of the other teams that are really killing it in the AFC as well. I think it's a little bit too much to say that they're the clear favorites. I'll say fluff. Bills, Titans, Ravens. These are all teams with the talent to compete with the Chiefs. I'll say fluff, and it's less an indictment on them and more pushing up some of these other good teams in the AFC.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, the Chiefs have come out of the AFC the last 2 years. And so I think they're the betting favorite. And I think in a given game, I'd feel more confident with picking them over anyone else. But we've seen Buffalo come into Kansas City and win this year, just like we talked about with, Buffalo beating or losing to Jacksonville, beating the Jets, that it's anything can happen. So I think especially the bye is important. If Tennessee can keep the bye and have home field advantage, maybe get Derrick Henry back for the playoffs. That's a different team, but I'm going stuff. I do think the Chiefs are the favorite as well.
It's so easy to it's so easy to overreact to every single week in NFL. Like it's just every game is not what you expect. You just have to go with, the long-term average of what players have shown you. And we know,
Brad, are you new to the sports or the fantasy industry? Like everybody, somebody, Tyler Lockett gets an 80-yard catch.
In people's defense about the Chiefs, they were reacting to like 8 games, not.
I think it was the defense was always bad. Like Mahomes,
that's true. But they were reacting to Mahomes as well. It's like Mahomes is a good quarterback. Like there's nothing to.
I've been saying for years he's Geno Smith with a good offense around.
As a hot take. If Mahomes was your quarterback, you'd take him.
Yeah, no, I think that's all agreement. I mean, the Chiefs, if not the favorite, are one of the favorites. Absolutely. The next, Brad, I'm going to start with you on this. Rhamondre Stevenson is the Patriots running back to own rest of season. Stuff or fluff?
I'm going to go fluff. I think Damian Harris is still the guy. He's always been the guy. If he's healthy, Belichick gives him all the carries. And Stevenson, he may have earned himself like the role of a Taylor or Bolden, like to take on that role of the person who relieves Damian Harris. But I think Harris is still the guy. Okay.
Simon, what about you?
Yeah, it's fluff, but he's moved into that tier of like Madison, Pollard, Dillon, like these backups that I'm unbelievably interested in having rostered in case something happens to the starter.
I agree.
I agree with what Brad said. It's Damien Harris's backfield. He showed us that he's a stud during and before the concussion. But Rhamondre Stevenson moved up a tier as far as backups that you want to roster for me.
Love to see those preseason guys show out, man.
How quickly people forget he was a healthy scratch just a few weeks ago. Like it's clearly going to be. Damien Harris is already back at practice. Like it's already done.
Yep.
Okay. John, are you in the same boat where you think, hey, it's fluff?
Yeah, like I said, Harris is already back practicing, so it was a fun run for the Bold and Rhamondre Stevenson crew. But he was a healthy scratch just a few weeks ago. They clearly don't think he's the number one guy, or he wouldn't be a healthy scratch when Harris is healthy.
Well, I don't take that really into consideration because Bill Belichick, like Jonas Gray, has a 200-yard, 4-touchdown game and then cuts him. Like that's the mental gymnastics. I was going to say it was fluff, but I want to go contrarian and say it's stuff. So Ramondre Stevenson had a 5 yards per carry, 20 for 100, 2 touchdowns, 4 catches on the ground. I think he's definitely overtaken the Brandon Bolden role. I think Brandon Bolden will go back to special teams eventually. I think that they have the kind of the long-term season in doubt, and you don't rush Damien Harris back from a concussion. You kind of ease him back into the workload. But Rhamondre Stevenson has kind of shown that explosiveness that Damien Harris didn't have. And I think it's a split backfield, but Stevenson's receiving upside gives him kind of that 1A, 1B over Damien Harris. So
are we swinging back the other way on concussions? Because I feel like there was like a period of time when all the controversy was going where people were missing a lot of time for concussions. And now it seems like at least
it varies. So, like,
I know, but at least from what I've seen, like
Tyrell Williams got a concussion
in a week.
Tyrell Williams got a concussion week 1, and they said he's not even close to returning, and the Lions cut him.
Well, it used to be like even last year or a couple of years ago, if you came off the field for even like a concussion test, they weren't going to mess with it. Like you were just off. You're not coming back in the game. Now I'm seeing guys come back like if they pass the test. So it's to Johnny's point, I think the block was kind of hot, so they were like, if you're even on the concussion, protocol, we're not going to mess around with this. But now it's up to the player. It seems like.
I just want to know what the concussion protocol is. Like they ask him, "Are you concussed?" Yes. Okay. Well, he said a word. He's good.
I joked when Gronk took a big hit a couple of seasons ago. He just uses that little like children's toy where he has to put the triangle in the triangle and the square in the square. And then once Gronk does that, he's back.
Oh yeah.
We had a test in high school wrestling that we had to pass to be allowed to wrestle, like our concussion protocol. And it was very similar to what you're saying. It was basically like click the polar bear, like fill in this pattern, 1, 2, blank, 4, 5. Like it was super simple stuff that we were having to do. And
we're stop calling USAA. You can't get their insurance. We're still on the concussion list.
Oh man, we're joking about a very serious topic, but obviously having some light in front of it. The next stuff or fluff, Simon, we're starting with you. Tua will be the Dolphins' starting quarterback in 2022.
God, I hope so. Or I am giving up on the rebuild that they're pretending to do in Miami. If Tua is not the starting quarterback there next year, I don't know what's going on. I'll say stuff. He's got to be the starting quarterback there. They missed out on. They did not get a trade done for Deshaun Watson. I'm not going to say they missed out on anything. Right. So I think Tua's the lead guy going into next year.
Okay, John.
I hope. I've never seen a team except for maybe Josh Rosen just like give up so quickly.
But he was so
at least that was to get Kyler Murray. But this is just outrageous.
Haskins.
He's coming off of an injury, and they just are done with him.
Okay.
For me, it's like I don't know. I don't know what they're looking for. Like, what do you want out of the dude? Like, he just threw 400 yards a couple of weeks ago. You just put him in with a messed up finger, and he won the game for you. Like, whoa. I'm sorry he's not Dan Marino. I'm sorry he's not putting up Herbert numbers. You don't scrap a guy that's actually having success. Like, let him grow, let him develop, let him make mistakes. You can't get better having such a short leash. You can't get better knowing that if every mistake you have, somebody's going to pull you just because, radio shows are calling for starting over. Like I think Tua has had a lot of success, and I don't know what Miami would want for him not to be the quarterback next year.
I think Miami having that good season last year, like mainly because their defense really tricked them into what they should have expected out of this year.
It did. Go ahead, Derek.
I was going to say, is it crazy for me to think it's fluff? And like, here's the reasoning why. Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are probably going to request a trade this offseason. Like, it's the secret's out.
Okay.
And,
yeah, that's fair.
And figure they get traded out of the conference. So how many teams in the AFC need a quarterback? You could say maybe the Dolphins, the Steelers, probably the Texans, and they don't have the draft capital, and the Broncos. So I think that they say, look, we have a lot of picks that we stockpiled. We didn't go for Deshaun Watson. They have Jalen Waddle. Who knows what they'll do, to replace. It seems like they can never have a healthy wide receiver 2 between Will Fuller and Devontae Parker. They have Gesicki. I think they say, you know what, we're going to make a move, and we're going to try to trade for one of these 2 quarterbacks. And hopefully you have to give up a little less draft capital if you include Tua.
I think Aaron Rodgers is just able to get out of his contract. I don't think he needs to be traded.
He does have to be traded, I think, next year. But Eric, that's a good take. Like if the answer is they're gonna go with an established quarterback who is already like a Hall of Famer, I could see that happening. If they're just gonna get rid of him and like try to draft a new dude, like I think that's stupid.
Well, here's my thing. They're paying a lot of money on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Xavier Howard and Byron Jones have the 2 biggest cornerback contracts. They've invested a lot in that defense, Brian Flores being kind of that philosophy. So I think when you have a quarterback like Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, we've seen how much they cover up a team's fault for how their teams look when they're not playing.
The only thing is, like, if I think this year has shown they're not like a quarterback away. The defense isn't as strong from year to year to say we just need this quarterback. Like
they've been on a good stretch recently. They've been on a good stretch recently.
For instance, like Washington made the playoffs last year on the strength of their defense. This year, the defense isn't as good.
I'm not liking the scheme. I think it's Del Rio more than anything, but it'll be interesting to see. I think it's not a lock that Tua starts, and interesting just for them drafting a quarterback and him not really giving a reason for them not to. The last stuff or fluff here, we talked about him earlier. The Ernest Johnson is a flex play the rest of the year when Chubb is healthy. John, stuff or fluff?
I think he is, as long as he's the second running back there, as long as either
we'll assume Kareem Hunt is out.
Okay, as long as that's the case, they need a 2-punch for that 1-2 punch that they like to run up there, and he proved it last week and the week before, and then probably the week before too. I'd have to look back at the last 3, but he's been consistently good, and it almost makes me question: are they just system running backs up there in Cleveland?
Okay. I mean that's a fair question to ask. Brad, what about you?
I think Johnson has had far too much success for him to just get like cut from your team if he's going to be the number 2 running back. We've seen like Chubb is the all-time 1A in that offense, but whether it be Hunt, whether it be Johnson, whether it be Felton, whoever's the number 2 running back there is going to get that 10 to 12 touches range regardless. So if that's the case with that offensive line, that's an asset that you should have on your team.
Okay. All right. So we're 2-1. Simon said no. So Simon, let's hear the counter.
I am full disagree on this one. If Nick Chubb's playing, you literally could not pay me to put Ernest Johnson in a lineup if Nick Chubb is playing.
What did he do?
Week 7, and I'm a Browns fan, so maybe I'm a little bit harsher on some of this stuff. People always say they have bias towards their home team. I've got bias against my team, but week 7, whenever he was the lead back, 22 carries, 146 yards and a touchdown, fantasy sweetheart, waiver wire darling. Next week, Nick Chubb comes back. He has 4 carries for 22 yards. Okay. The following week, Nick Chubb also active, 8 carries for 16 yards. Nick Chubb goes out again, 19 carries, 99 yards. He is only being used whenever there is no other option. Nick Chubb is the 1-punch and the 2-punch whenever Kareem Hunt is out. They're just going to give him all the carries. I'm not starting Ernest Johnson.
So he's the hook jab?
He's the hook jab. Nick Chubb.
Okay.
Is, yeah.
He's the cross uppercut.
All right.
Now you lost me.
All right. I mean, I think you play him. And you talked about, I mean, he had some really good games. And I think it's different looking at the stats and then watching the games. He's very explosive. He has a jump cut. He runs hard. I kind of like the people that have a chip on their shoulder. I feel like a running back like him that isn't very established, you run hard every play because you want to try to earn that contract. If the Browns aren't going to pay you and you're a free agent, then, have another team throw the bag at you for what you've shown in the limited amount of time. And the Browns are very run heavy. We'll see if Baker plays this week, but I think that's their identity. No matter, who's under center or who's starting at running back that they are going to run first. And
I
use
love
that
the guy.
offensive line that they're paying.
Yeah, I love Ernest Johnson. And to Johnny's point, it is a bit of a system. Whoever they plug in at running back, I think is going to be successful. But I just don't think Ernest Johnson's going to see enough volume whenever Chubb's healthy to make him.
Hey, Simon, we're going off script here a little bit, but what do you think about Baker?
Ooh.
I hate that I'm in the same division, or that they're in the same division as Burrow and Lamar, because it makes me a lot less excited. Of those three young quarterbacks, he's my least favorite. But I think
do you pay him?
Yeah.
I think so. He's in that Kirk Cousins range, and I'd rather have him than Kirk Cousins because he's a bit younger. You get some more.
That's a wrong answer. It's a wrong answer. We'll have to debate this for another day.
You go and get Tua. Baker for Tua. Okay. Who says no?
Whew, that's a tough one. Don't make me think about that.
Yeah, here's what I do about Baker. You make a hard offer. You offer him something maybe in the year of, in the era of, or the range of 5-year, $100 million. You don't overpay. You say, look, this is what we're prepared to offer you. Go out and find something more on the market.
He can't, as a player, you can't take that because you have a responsibility to the other players to continue to get your market value. He's not going to take that 500. He's going to go. He's looking for at least 200 plus.
Nah, I couldn't do that. I mean, maybe you front load the contract so he's getting more in his first couple of years, like the 49ers did with Jimmy Garoppolo. I guess we'll have to see on that. Good segue, Brad, or way to take us out of it. We got our last segment here, the obscure tight end touchdown of the week, and this was going to be a sad trombone noise. So, wah, wah. And that's for me because I haven't gotten one this year. Ooh. So, which tight end is rostered in 50% or less of ESPN league scores a touchdown? It's because I try to be obscure. I try to pick like third string tight ends.
That's what I was trying to do too much. Like if they were like under 10% owned, I was like, oh boy, this one's going to be fun when I'm right. And then I'm not right.
All right. So Simon, you're the guest. Who is the obscure tight end that finds the end zone this week?
Man, how obscure do I have to go?
Less than 50%.
Less than 50%. I don't have the logs up in front of me, but I have to assume Hayden Hurst is probably under 50% owned.
Hayden Hurst. He probably is less than 50% owned. He's 1.2% owned, so you're good.
Okay, so that's a little less than 50. I have to assume the Patriots are going to try to shut down Kyle Pitts in this game, so opens it up for Hayden Hurst a little bit. I'll take that shot.
Okay, I've taken him in the past, and he hasn't scored, but we'll see if he does now. John, what about you?
I was going to guess CJ Uzomah. The Raiders are notoriously bad about covering tight ends for 20 years, so here we go again, and I'm not going to watch it. So
crazy that
watch him get a touchdown.
Crazy that he's the tight end 10 and he's only rostered in 16.5% of leagues. Like he's a tight end 1 that's getting touchdowns but isn't getting the ownership. So
it's crazy.
That's good play, Brad. I'm gonna have you go last because you've been doing too well, and I don't want anyone cherry picking off you. I'm gonna keep going with obscurity. I'm gonna go Gerald Everett. He had 8 targets last week. I don't think the Seahawks get shut out again. Typically, games between them and Arizona have been a little bit higher scoring. I think the finger is affecting his ability to throw the ball downfield, so he's doing a lot more underneath routes, and I think Everett's going to find the end zone. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But all right, Brad, which player is going to score a touchdown? Because we already know you're going to get it.
He's 23% owned in leagues right now. He's got touchdowns in the last 2 of his games. I'm going Evan Ingram. They're playing the Bucs. The Bucs have that weak passing defense right now. They're very depleted with injuries. We see Richard Sherman's going out again. So I like Evan Ingram for that red zone touchdown.
Makes mental note to place bet on Evan Ingram anytime touchdown. Well, let's see who gets it right. Brad's killing it. I think he's in the leaderboard. John is in second. The guests haven't had much success. David's got one. I've got a big old goose egg. But we're getting to the fun parts of the show now. We got our question of the week, sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight. Make sure you create an account. New depositors are going to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Use promo code TRIPLEPLAY. And if you are on Monkey Knife Fight, do those touchdown builders. You have to pick 3 players that score over 2.5, 3.5, or 4.5 touchdowns. There's no salary cap. That's something that I've really liked on there and have been hitting well. So our question of the week was a surprise from John. So what is it?
Yeah, so it's kind of a theme on my Raiders angst this week, but how many losing seasons would you take in a row if you knew a Super Bowl was at the end of them? Like, would you lose 15 seasons in a row just to get 20 seasons in a row?
We have to be realistic, right?
When do you stop? Yeah.
Okay.
What a great question.
Okay.
Huh.
Brad, I mean, go first.
That's a great question. Okay. All right, let me just think about like my actual tolerance. So I've been a Washington fan my entire life. I have yet to see a Super Bowl as a conscious adult.
And I mean losing seasons, like
Yeah.
like, oh, we made the playoffs. There's some hope.
Not a
like,
7-9, but like a bottom of the barrel.
The
Yeah.
RG3 season was the happiest season I've ever had as a Washington fan, and I didn't actually think we could win the Super Bowl. I just always thought we had a chance to win. So I'd say realistically, like if I knew there was going to be a Super Bowl at the end of the rainbow, like 15 years, I guess. Like I have never tasted like a Super Bowl championship, so I know that I have that tolerance of like 15 years and still remaining a fan. So I'd say that.
Okay, Simon, we're going to you as a hurt Browns fan. I mean,
Yeah,
you're kind of in the same boat as Brad, where you've been waiting for a while.
I mean, until 2 years ago, I feel like there was zero hope of the Browns ever winning a Super Bowl. Like it looked like they were just destined to be bottom of the barrel NFL team for the rest of my life. And you know what? I had no intentions of switching teams. So if you told me I was guaranteed a Super Bowl as long as I'm alive, I honestly think that's the answer. If it's 60 years, but you tell me I'm going to be alive for it, like I'm not jumping off the Browns.
I'm thinking of like how the Cubs, they went like 104 years without winning a World Series, and like fans that are like 18 are experiencing the same joy as fans that are like 80.
It's not the same joy. It's not the same joy.
Okay. I mean, yeah, one has just been through years of suffering. John, I'm interested to hear your answer.
It's almost like the longer you wait, like the sweeter it is,
Yeah.
Like John's about
and
to
that's
quit
sort
on
of
the Raiders.
I mean, it's it's been sort of similar. We haven't been bottom of the barrel, but only had one winning season in like 20 years, and the quarterback broke his leg, so it wasn't all fun and games. So, I kind of think if I knew that I was going to get a championship, I guess I guess I just have to stay on until I got it. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
All right. So for me, I have two answers. One, I'll wait 15 years. I've had my heart broken in the Super Bowl twice, losing to the two teams in the AFC I hate the most, losing in the NFC Championship to the Seahawks on the Richard Sherman deflected pass. I've had enough heartbreak. So 15 years, I'm going with Brad's answer. If they get their revenge over Kansas City and I get to watch the game with David and metaphorically drag my nuts across his face and get my revenge, I'll wait 50 years for that. Like,
I just think it's almost better. Like the Cubs, the 18-year-old doesn't care that the Cubs won the championship. The person who's been waiting around forever does.
I'll tell you this. If I could have killed David for like 2 hours, I would have done it at night.
I mean,
like, that's how frustrated I was, and having an emotional David who cried when the Chiefs won.
I will say, Eric, like I've never experienced like going to the Super Bowl and losing. I imagine that would hurt way more than just never making the playoffs. So
your stomach is tossing and turning. Like I was sitting in bed and I was like, what could I have done differently? I'm like, wait a second, there's nothing I could have done. It's not like I could have turned the TV off. It's not like
I think that for week 8 games, I think, damn, if I followed my superstition, maybe Deshaun Jackson wouldn't have freaking ran the wrong way and fumbled the ball.
So here's the only thing. Here's the only thing that made me feel better is I put $100 on the Chiefs to win. So I was like, okay, at least I made like $80. Like
emotional hedge.
The emotional hedge. Everybody gives me crap for it, but in instances like that, like you kind of have to. But John, great question. Great question.
Yeah, that was a great question.
Great question. And we're sticking with.
I thought of it 2 minutes before I
Wow, good job. I mean, you started thinking of more of them on the fly. But we're going to finish up with the game of the week, and we're sticking with John, who's got his normal coach or philosopher quote game, right?
Yeah, you took it right out of my mouth. I'm doing the coach or philosopher quote. I'm going to give you a quote. It's either by a NFL head coach, past or present, or a philosopher, because aren't NFL head coaches really just modern day philosophers?
You even have the same quote to intro it on. I love it.
Well, because sometimes there was a period when I was doing this where we kind of forgot why I was doing it. I was just sort of throwing some quotes on the board. But yeah, and if you guess whether it's a philosopher or head coach, and if you guess the head coach or philosopher correctly, you get a bonus point. And as I always say, keep track of your own points. I am not your mother. I got 5 of them for you. And here we go. The first one is you can learn a line from a success and a book from failure. And we will start with Eric.
Can you say it one more time?
You can learn a line from a success and a book from failure.
I'm going to go philosopher, and we're going to get our Lao Tzu quote, or Lao Tzu went out early.
Brad.
I'm going to go Coach Lombardi.
That's a good one.
Simon.
Oh, it doesn't have to be active NFL coaches. It can be
no, past or present.
No, yeah.
Past or present. I'll go coach as well, and I will go with an active one. I'll say Staley.
So when I did this, I didn't know we had a Browns fan, but that is Coach Paul Brown.
Oh, wow.
Oops.
So there we go. Just happy accidents here, Bob Ross. The next one is make the best of what's in your power and take the rest as it happens. So we'll start with Brad.
I'm going to go philosopher and Descartes.
Simon.
I'll go philosopher, and I have no idea. Nietzsche.
I'll go philosopher as well, Aristotle.
That is philosopher Epictetus.
Of
Ooh,
course,
never even heard of that.
Epictetus.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, new one.
Simon.
A new one.
Everybody's favorite. Everybody's favorite.
I haven't gotten to that chapter yet.
People often fail when they're about to succeed. If you remain as careful at the end as the beginning, there will be no failure. Simon.
I'll go coach. I'll say Belichick. I'm blanking.
Eric, I can't name a single NFL coach.
Coach Jimmy Johnson.
Bradley.
I'm going to go philosopher, and I think that's our trusty Lao quote.
That is our trusty
Nice.
Lao Tzu quote, our Lao Tzu quote of the day.
I just need to say Lao Tzu for every answer.
You'll eventually get 2 points.
I will.
And our next one is, it's hard enough to remember my opinions without also remembering my reasons for them. Eric.
Coach Lombardi.
Brad.
I'm going to go Coach Parcells.
Simon.
And you know what? I'm going to just differentiate myself here, a little bit of game theory, and I'll say philosopher Socrates.
That is philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche.
Said it on the wrong one.
Yeah, a couple off.
I know.
Well, it's definitely between
always,
you guys because I have one.
I always
point,
try
so.
to not have a little smile when somebody jumps the gun on a philosopher.
I love it. Philosophy, economics, game theory. Like we got this football. This podcast got it all.
This is a thinking man's podcast here.
So what are people's points right now as we round into the
I've got
last
4.
one?
I got one.
I've got 3.
Ooh. So it looks like this could be Brad's game unless somebody gets the philosopher correct or head coach.
Yeah, I think it's a philosopher now.
The man on top of a mountain didn't fall there. And we'll start with you, Brad.
I'm going to say Coach John Gruden. Disgrace to John Gruden.
You think I would do a John Gruden quote at this point?
I'm being good. I'm being a good guest here. Good host, I should
Simon.
say.
Well, I think you set it up for me to take philosopher. I have to if I want a chance of winning, and I'll stick with Socrates because I was one too early on Nietzsche, so I'll say I'm one too early on Socrates too.
Philosopher, and you're giving us 2 Lao Tzu quotes today.
Ooh, if only. This is a head coach, Vince Lombardi, and I thought this was actually like the most philosopher-y quote.
I was one off on 2 of them with Lao Tzu and Lombardi.
So this is Bradley's win. He's the most learned of everyone
Brad, I wish I had the
FaceTime. I'm gonna give my FaceTime over to Simon.
I wish I had the applause to give you, but
It's okay.
I
It's
love
okay.
I'm gonna go make a
applause.
philosopher quote Quizlet after this and start prepping for the next time I come on. You guys
I
are
love
getting
it.
down.
I love it. Simon, thank you so much for joining us. Before we log out, anything you want to plug, where they can find you, things that FYF are working on, what your next tattoo is going to be, recommendations on where to hide a pizza in a bush so that you can get it after a game.
If you're gonna hide a pizza in a bush, make sure it's high enough so kids can't see it when they're walking by. Most adults don't peek into bushes, but kids are always playing around there. But I just wanted to thank you guys so much for having me on today. I really appreciate you guys allowing me to come on and talk football with you. This was a ton of fun. If you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at FYF Simon, then Front Yard Fantasies on Twitter at Front Yard FYF. And like I said earlier, we are live every day, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time for the Fantasy Football Game Show. That's our bread and butter. So come on over and play some games with us. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a really good time. And, it's different. It's different. Everybody gives you their takes, their Twitter things. Like, this is a good way to just kick back at 3 p.m. and say, you know what, I'm going to take 30 minutes from work and get out of corporate America. Appreciate everybody tuning in, whether you're on the live stream, whether the pod version, whether you're injecting it into your veins. Make sure you catch us next week. Maybe David will be back as a host. Hopefully not. But I will steal his quote and say we're going to be like a bread truck and haul these buns. Catch you on the next one.